Shalom, everyone. We are continuing our study of Sefer Yeshayahu. Again, a very, very difficult book in which there's a constant movement between short-term nevuos, such as the exile of the 10 tribes and the downfall of Sancheiriv, and long-term nevuos that are the messianic nevuos of Gog and Magog and Mashiach. And in this part of the book, generally, we are discussing the nevuos against the Umos HaOlam that persecuted the Jewish people. And here, Perek Yutes begins with Masa Mitzrayim, the burden, right? Nevuos of Peranius are described as Masa, the burden of Mitzrayim, the downfall of Mitzrayim. Now, Mitzrayim does not refer to modern Egypt, which is an Islamic country, refers to the ancient Mitzrayim. Now, in the time of the Navi Yeshayahu, Mitzrayim was still a very, very powerful empire. It had pharaohs and the like, and they continued to afflict the Jewish people in various ways. And essentially, this is a nevuah that Mitzrayim will be broken and destroyed. Some aspects refer to Sancheiriv doing it, because the same way he exiled the 10 tribes, he also exiled the Mitzrayim, and he broke their empire. But this also refers to the long-term destruction, which again is a little difficult, because that long-term destruction will be a different national entity, but it might apply to the modern Egypt as well. And this is not a nevuah that is said to Mitzrayim, as I mentioned before. This is rather a nevuah that is said to the Jewish people about Mitzrayim, giving them nechama, that even the nations that try to destroy us and are so powerful and so dominant will eventually have their downfall. Ma'asa Mitzrayim. Hine, behold, Hashem rochev alav kal uba Mitzrayim. It is as if God, again, these are metaphoric languages, God will ride on a swift cloud, meaning your Peranius is very soon. Indeed, it was with Sancheiriv. Hashem is riding on a speedy cloud, uva Mitzrayim, and he will come to Mitzrayim. V'no elile Mitzrayim ipanav, and all of your gods, small g gods, will run away from Hashem. Meaning your gods are not going to help you. Ulavav Mitzrayim yimas bekirbo, and God will cause the heart of the Egyptians, the heart that gives them courage, it will melt away. V'sichsachti Mitzrayim b'Mitzrayim, v'nilchamu ish b'yochiv, v'ish b're'eyu, ir be'ir, mamlacha b'mamlacha. This is a little difficult because we can't really identify what event this is describing, and maybe it's describing a future event. And that is, there's a discussion here of civil war within the powerful Egyptian kingdom. I will turn Egypt against Egypt. Man will fight against his brother. Man will fight against his friend. City will fight against its city. Mamlacha, that means subdivision of a kingdom, will fight against another subdivision. Meaning to say there will be internal turmoil, internal confusion. Again, I'm not in a position to connect this to current events, but maybe this refers to the turbulence that exists within the Arab world. V'navka ruach Mitzrayim b'kirbei. And as a result of all of this turbulence, the spirit of Egypt, its wisdom, its strategy, will become emptied. Atzasay avalei, Hashem says, I will swallow up their wise counsel. V'dorshu el elilim, they will seek answers in their gods. Of course, again, all of these nevuos have so many meanings. Maybe their gods might be their oil, their politics, their philosophy, their Islamic fundamentalism. All of these are gods. Gods are lav dafka statues. When you read Nevi'im, you have to have a little bit of a poetic imagination as well. What is the Navi telling us? Because remember, it can't just be this old country then, there has to be a relevance now, because all nevuos in Nach are only written down if it has a shaychus l'deiros. So they will seek their gods, whoever their gods are, Elohitim, the soothsayers, Havos Yidonim, the magicians. Right? I would add, the economists, the political theorists, the philosophers. But V'sikarti es Mitzrayim biyad Adonim kasher. I will deliver the Egyptians to a very harsh master. Again, in the short term, this is Sancheiriv, but it has long-term implications. Umelech az yimshal bam, and a mighty king shall rule over them. Nium ha'adayin Hashem tzivakos. These are the words of Hashem. V'nishtu mayim mehayom, v'nahar yechorev v'yovesh. And water will be taken away even from the ocean, and the river will dry up. Now, river, we understand, in Egypt, the Nile was extremely important. That was their source of parnasa, that was their source of wealth. And they worshipped the Nile because the flooding of the Nile every year brought them crops, brought them prosperity. And if, God forbid, there was a drought, there was great, great tragedy in Egypt. So the notion, when we talk about Egypt being broken, so you could describe that as the Nile drying up, in the sense that their economy will be shattered. It's a little less clear what is the significance of the water will be dried from the sea. I mean, the sea is salt water. It is not a source of parnasa. But it could basically mean they will lose their ability to escape, because the sea, the Mediterranean, could be a way to get out of harm's way. And when that dries up, again, literally or figuratively, because it may just mean you're not going to be able to escape. You're going to be stuck in your country, and your economy will be destroyed. V'haznichu naharais, and therefore they will have to abandon their rivers. Dalalu v'charvu ya'irei mitzor. The ya'irim, the water ponds that gave them protection, will become impoverished and dried up. Konev v'suf kamelu, the reeds that grow will be cut, because the reeds depend on the water. Oros al yaor, al pi yaor. Oros al yaor, meaning that which is rooted by the Nile. Right, Davar Amura, that which is nishrash on the Nile shall become dried up by the Nile. Again, literally, what is being described is a drought, a famine. Figuratively, it means those who depend on this economy shall become wiped out. V'chol mizra yaor, and all that is planted by this river. Yivash will be dried. Nidaf, it'll be blown away. V'einenu, and it won't be there anymore. V'anu hadayogim, dayogim are fishermen. Anu does not mean we, it means like aninas. They will moan and groan. The fishermen will groan. V'yavlu kol mashlichei bayor chaka, and all who throw into the river fishing hooks will be in Avelis. Again, Nile dries up, no crops, no fish, but again, in a more larger sense, it's a collapse of the economy. So there are a few things here. Inability to escape to another country, loss of political sovereignty, being ruled by a melech kasher, and collapse of the agricultural and fishing economy. Parsei machmeiris al pnei hamayim, those who throw nets. Right? Some people fish by hooks, that's the chaka, and some people fish by nets. Those are the parsei michmoros. Umlalu, they will be cut off. Uboshu, and there'll be collateral effects. Again, Mamish describing modern economics. Ovdei pishtim surikot. Now, if there's no fish, there'll be no need for nets. So who's going to suffer? The people who make nets, right? Collateral effects of an economic collapse. That those who work with flax and comb the flax and orgim chorai and those who weave special fabric, they too will lose their parnasa because there's no fish that you need nets for. V'hayu shashoseha midu ka'im, the very foundations of Egypt will be crushed. Kol osei sochor agmei nafesh, and all those who work for money, all sorts of businesses, will have agmas nefesh, the sadness of spirit, spelled with an aleph, although usually with an ayin. So, again, this is what life is, meaning if a major segment of the economy is wiped out, it's not just that segment, but, the stores are going to get less income and etc. because the people who would be the customers of the stores aren't going to be there. Ach, evilim sarei tzayan, chachme yayetze parei eitza nivara. How foolish are the princes of Tzayan. Tzayan was a major city in Mitzrayim. The wise, the so-called wise advisors of Paro, have given him foolish, stupid advice, meaning there was arrogance, there was gaiva. They thought they were important. In the short term, they'll be crushed by Ashur. In the long term, we're dealing with messianic prophecies. Eich tomru el Paro. In retrospect, how can you possibly tell Paro, Ben chachamim ani, I am the son of a wise man, meaning I come from wise people. Ben malchei kedem, I am from the kings of the east that had wisdom. People will see how foolish, short-sighted you were. All of your advice, your political advice, your economic advice. Ayam eifo chachamecha. Where, when all of this happens, we're going to ask some good questions. Where were your wise people? V'yagidun olach. And they will give you advice. Where are they? You don't have any. V'yedu ma'yazem shevakaz al Mitzrayim. And if you find wise people, they will finally tell you what Hashem is doing to you. Now again, Rav Schwab points out that based on the principles of Nevuah shehutzrachu l'dairis, even when a Nevuah is about Mitzrayim, we learn lessons how to apply it to other nations and indeed to ourselves. The gaiva of kaichi v'yetzim yadi, the gaiva of thinking your economic and political systems are going to guarantee your survival. It's not true. So, psukim that are talking about Mitzrayim also have a message for us. Pasuk Yudimel, Nayalu Sarei Tzayan, the great princes of Tzayan have become foolish. Nishu Sarei Naif, again, Naif is another city in Egypt. Nishu, they have wandered away in foolishness. Hitu es Mitzrayim pinat shavateha, its choicest tribes, its greatest men, Hitu, have led Mitzrayim astray, wrong direction. Hashem masach bekirba ruach ivim, God has implanted in their souls a spirit of foolishness. V'hitu es Mitzrayim b'chol ma'aseyu, and that spirit of foolishness has led Mitzrayim in all of its actions to do stupid things. Kihi ta'ot shikor bikio, as a drunk person who vomits, keeps on walking around in a circle into his vomit. He doesn't even have the ability to distance himself. So the spirit of foolishness is like a shikor going back to his vomit. Again, I don't want to be too political here, but think of the confusion that exists in the world, and you read the Nevuah of Mitzrayim, and you see this all over the place. V'lo yiyeh l'Mitzrayim ma'aseh asher ya'aseh rosh v'zanav kippah v'yagmain. Society will be so confused and so broken down, there will not be a single action that's going to make sense. The Rosh, the bosses, are going to mess up. The Zanav, the tail, the regular people won't know what to do. Kippah v'yagmon. Kippah v'yagmon is a reference. A kippah means the branches, and the yagmon are the shoots, meaning all levels of society. The boss, the insignificant person, the hard branches, meaning experienced workers, the yagmon, the soft branches, the inexperienced people. No one's going to know anything. Everyone is going to be confused. But then, something's going to happen. Bayayim hahu, yiyah Mitzrayim kanoshim. The whole powerful nation of Mitzrayim will be like a frightened woman. Right, a woman, it's a stereotype, but the woman sees a mouse and she gets very, very afraid. V'charad upachad. They will tremble. They will be afraid. Mipnei tenufas yad Hashem tzvakos. Because they'll see the waving of Hashem's hand against them. That's a madrega. They'll realize Hashem is telling them something. Asher hu meinif elav, that he's waving against them. V'hoisa admas Yehuda leMitzrayim lechaga. And the land of Yehuda will be a source of trembling to Mitzrayim. Now again, here the Mefarshim say that this is a reference to the short term. When they see that Ashur, which conquered them, is destroyed when Ashur goes against Yerushalayim, they will be afraid of the Jewish people. What kayach do the Jewish people have? That they could defeat the Ashur that destroyed us. So they'll look at Admas Yehuda with a pachad. Kol asher yaskiros ha'elav, anyone that even mentions Malchus Yehuda, yifchad, they will get afraid. Because Mitzrayim is going to realize what's going to happen to us because of what we did to the Jews. So now, there's something in these psukim that, at least for me, may be literally the most remarkable psukim in Nach, of which we don't really know what it's talking about. But it's going to describe, this is B'acharis Hayomim, how the corrupt, degenerate, evil nation of Mitzrayim, and by extension other nations, will do tshuva and will turn to God. They won't necessarily become Jewish, but they'll become quasi-Jewish, which halachically there's no such thing. Bayomahu Yiyah Chamesh Orim B'Eretz Mitzrayim Midabros Savas Canaan. There will be 5 cities in Mitzrayim that will speak the language of Canaan. Again, this is an unusual term for Hebrew. They will speak Lashon HaKodesh. Nishbais Lashem Tzivakos. They will swear in the name of God. Let me point out, although the minhag of Jews is not to swear, the Rambam actually says, when you're nishba on truth, you're not lying, it's actually a mitzvah to be nishba l'shem Hashem. We don't do it because we're never sure we're 100% emes. But al liba di emes, if you know it's true, there's a mitzvah to swear it b'shem Hashem. They will swear b'shem Hashem. Ir ha'hares yomer liachas. And one of those cities will be called the city of destruction. Again, it's an odd name. That doesn't sound so good. But the idea is a city in which all of the evil of Mitzrayim has been destroyed. And Bayomahu Yiyah Mizbeach Lashem B'toch Eretz Mitzrayim. Now again, to apply this to contemporary events is not within my koyach. But think about the Abrahamic Accords, in which even in, it's not Egypt, Taka, but United Arab Emirates, Dubai, there's now a shul, there's now a Beis Knesset, kosher restaurant. Hashem is being mentioned. Maybe, who knows how many Arabs are speaking Hebrew because of this. And there will be a Mizbeach to Hashem in Eretz Mitzrayim. Now, this might be Korbanos, and let me point out how halachically this would actually be mutter, because although Klal Yisrael, a Yid, has an Isser to be makriv a korban on a bama outside of the Beis HaMikdash, non-Jews, even Bisman Hazeh, are allowed to bring korbanos on a bama. A goy could bring a korban in his backyard, not only in Yerushalayim, even in New York or Chicago. I'm not advocating it, but halachically it's actually mutter. So there's a prophecy that the Egyptians will build a Mizbeach for Hashem. Now, alternatively, in a more symbolic way, it might refer to a Beis Knesset, right, like we're seeing today. Umat Seva, Eitzel Gevulal Hashem, and there will be a monument to HaKadosh Baruch Hu by its boundary, so anyone who enters the country knows this is a God-fearing country. And this Mitzrayim finding Hashem will be a sign and a testimony that Hashem will pay attention to. Remarkable. Ki yitzaku el Hashem ibnei lo chatzim. That when Mitzrayim cries to God because of the oppression, its suffering, vayishlach lahem Moshiach v'rav v'hotzilam, God will save them. Mitzrayim, that was the oppressor, will become the oppressed, but Hashem will listen to their tshuva and their tefillah. Just absolutely amazing. When, how, I don't know. But that's what the pasuk says. V'naida Hashem leMitzrayim. And God will be known to the Mitzrayim. V'yadu Mitzrayim es Hashem b'yomahu. And Mitzrayim will truly know the worship of Hashem. Hashem is Midas HaRachamim. They'll know the Rachamim, not Elokim, but the Rachamim of Hashem. V'yavdu zevach u'mincha. They will bring korbanos and meal offerings. V'nadru neder l'Hashem b'shilemu. They will make vows to Hashem and they will keep those vows. And v'nagav Hashem Mitzrayim nagav v'rafah. And even though God will have smitten Mitzrayim, but they'll have a refuah. V'shavu ad Hashem. They will return to Hashem, just as Hosea said, Shuva Yisrael ad Hashem alekecha. Mitzrayim will have v'shavu ad Hashem. V'netzar lahem. He will listen to their prayers. Urefa'am. And he will heal them. Bayomahu Tia Mesila mi Mitzrayim Ashura. There will be a highway between Mitzrayim and Assyria, which had destroyed Mitzrayim. Uba Ashur b'Mitzrayim. Commerce. Ashur will trade with Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim ba'Ashur. Now it says, Ovdu Mitzrayim es Ashur, which literally might mean Mitzrayim shall serve Ashur. But the Mefarshim say that's not what it means. I mean, that did happen, but now we're talking about a later stage. We're not talking about when Assyria conquered Mitzrayim. Instead of es, meaning Mitzrayim will serve Ashur, it actually means Mitzrayim will worship Hashem im Ashur, with Ashur. In other words, Ashur will do tshuva as well. And Chavdalit. I mean, again, I can't get over how astounding these psukim are. I mean, no one ever talks about these verses. Bayomahu, and on that day, Yeh Yisrael Sholashiyah the Mitzrayim. The Jewish people will be a member of a triumvirate, 3 states, 3 godly states, Mitzrayim, Ashur, and the Jewish people in the middle. It'll be the third, but actually third means the primary, meaning the middle, for Mitzrayim and Ashur, and all will bring blessing. B'keref ha'aretz. Asher beiracho Hashem tzavakot, and God will give a blessing to these 3 nations. Lamor, this is going to blow your mind. Baruch Ami Mitzrayim. Blessed is my nation, Mitzrayim. Maise Yadai Ashur. Blessed be Ashur, that are the creations of my hands. Nachalasi Yisrael. And blessed is Am Yisrael, that is my permanent inheritance. The pasuk says, Hashem is going to call Mitzrayim Ami, my nation. Ashur, Maise Yadai, Yisrael, Nachalasi. Hashem will bless all 3 nations because they have turned to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Clearly, this is a messianic reference. We don't know what it means. But as I say, Le'anias Daiti, this is one of the most remarkable nevuos in Nach, and we have to be humble and honest that we don't really know exactly what it means and how it will be fulfilled, but may we be zeicha to this b'mheira v'yameinu.